All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. We gonna get connected. How you doing? How's everybody doing today? I was trying to say several things at once. Dang it! I hate when that happens. We're live on Rockfin. Hello, Rockfin people. What's up, Rockfin people? We're live on YouTube. What's up, YouTubers? Obsolete Optics say storm waves in Santa Cruz flood a beach and cause big damage. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it is. It has been kind of stopped right now, but it rained like crazy over the last 24 hours here. It rained like nuts. I see it. Evacuation orders issued for Capitola. High surf flooding homes and destroying wharfs. Wow. Yeah, it's a serious storm that we got. Meanwhile, on the East Coast, Bella says it's been unseasonably warm all week. I have to say, and maybe, I hope that I'm not making this up. I hope I'm not, slanting my own experiences. But in the last, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years, we have gotten rain events, atmospheric rivers, whatever you want to call them. We've got some serious, insanely robust storms where I live. And I don't recall ever experiencing the magnitude of these storms, the severity of these storms. In my experience, and I've lived in this city, in this state, pretty much my whole life. In my experience, storms in California, especially in Southern California, tend to be not that harsh. And when they do come, they come and then they go right away. And in the last few years, it feels like something is different. And I hope I'm not just reading that into it, but we get these incredibly intense rainstorms and they last for days. And we're not done yet. We've gotten this intense rain all weekend and now the last 24 hours. And we're supposed to get more in a couple days. I only remember 1 year when I was a kid when we got really heavy rain. 1 year. It just rained and rained, and it rained a lot. But that's the only time I remember. That was a long time ago when I was maybe 10 or 11. But, my experience of California weather or Southern California weather is that it's, we don't get what people call weather. That's why people move here, because we just don't get weather. We don't get in really, too extreme one way or the other. But in the last, I have to say, since maybe 2017 or so, so that's what, 5 or 6 years. Every single year we get these very incredibly intense rainstorms, and that's new to me. And not only is it new, it's it seems to be a trend, right? Like if that happened for 1 year, you'd go, oh, okay, we just had this random year. I don't know if it's an anomaly, Max RJ. It doesn't feel like, I would, if it was an anomaly, it would be something that just happened like one time, right? You get this huge 1 year, all kinds of rain, huge storms, crazy weather. That's an anomaly. When you have it year after year after year, that's not an anomaly. That's a trend. And, I don't know for sure if we can chalk it up to climate change, but putting that all together with all the other extreme weather events that are happening around the country and around the world all the time, I would say it feels like climate change. It feels like the climate is changing. Was it 1972, Andre? I don't know if that was the year that I remember. Because I was only 1972. I was like 4 or 5. I think it was later than that. There was 1 year in the 70s when it just rained and rained and rained one winter, and I don't ever remember it being that hard. Anyways, I'd say you can't just call this one instance or one particular, anecdote about the weather climate change. But if you put it all together with everything else that's going on, and you see that it's happening year after year, that things have definitely shifted year after year, well, that looks like something's changing, right? All kinds of things are changing. All kinds of weather patterns are changing. Sorry, call-in people. Don't mean to be a tapping on the call-in app. A tapping on the call-in app. Things are changing because of climate change, right? Like trees are dying in Colorado. Weather systems are shifting. People are noticing the weather is getting real weird, kind of all the time. I just heard somebody who was a straight-up climate denier talking about how they have tornadoes all the time now where he lives. I was like, he's hinting that maybe somebody's making these. Yes, I'm not 54, I'm 55. He's hinting that somebody's making these tornadoes happen. I'm like, all right. You think somebody cares that much about your particular neck of the woods that, turn on the tornado ray? I don't think so. If they can control such things, it seems a little bit random that they would just do that. That they have a tornado making tower ray set up near where you live, and they just turn it on, boop, whenever it doesn't make any sense. Unless I see evidence or facts or data or evidence that tell me otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. But if you show me, here's the tower, or here's a direct effect of something that's happening, then I would go, oh, that's very interesting, and I would look at it and try to understand it. But we have that's true. Bella Lugrisi, he who controls the weather will control the world, or control the food, or control the money, or control the whatever. But we also have something called climate science. right? We have something called climate science where people were saying, uh, you know, based on our data and evidence and how, what we think is going to happen in the future, this is kind of what it's going to look like. And here we are in the future, and it kind of looks like what they're talking about. Could it just be good old climate science? It's proven us correct. I err on the side of that because there's way more data and evidence on that side. There's mountains and mountains and mountains of data and evidence on that side. Not to mention direct, observational evidence that you can actually look at right now. Right? But what's happening with well, I was just reading this story a little bit. But yeah, there's some strong weather going on in California. Dangerous conditions caused by enormous waves and high tides have impacted the Santa Cruz coastline, forcing evacuations and resulting in damage to multiple piers. Due to large waves and high tides along Beach Drive, Las Olas Drive and Potbelly Beach Drive, the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office is asking people to evacuate. Yikes. If you can't evacuate, shelter in place. That's some strong weather, right? That's some strong waves. I was just listening to somebody else say, like, to some more. I mean, you hear people that are generally climate denialists or skeptics or whatever you want to call them. They're always kind of admitting that we are screwing up the planet, right? They totally, everybody understands, like, we're not treating the planet correctly. Like, everybody understands that. Even people who are deny that climate change is a thing that's happening. All of them are like, well, yeah, we are poisoning the oceans and the fish and the animals and the land. We are doing that. We're doing that collectively. We are doing that. If we aren't doing it directly, we're allowing it to happen. And so therefore, we are doing it. If you're allowing something to happen that you know is wrong, I know it sucks. I know people don't like to hear this. I know it makes people kind of mad when I say stuff like this. If you allow something to happen that you know is wrong, right? Or if you're like, then you're part of the problem, right? If you're not actively stopping the thing that they're doing, that they are doing. But you're also helping the reality is that we are doing it collectively, all of us together. And it sucks because we're part of a system that's destroying the planet, right? It sucks. If you're driving to Walmart to go get some hot dogs, whatever it is. If you're on if you're driving what Hambone calls a gas sucking car, if you're on an airplane, if you're, engaging in industrial civilization as we know it, and most of us are, we're part of the problem. I am part of the problem. I'm saying this because I am part of the problem. But what else is happening? Poppy sent me this. Beavers. All beavers. Beavers have moved into the melting tundra of western Alaska, transforming rivers into warmer still ponds, amplifying permafrost thaw. Fascinating pictures from space capture the changes. We're here. This channel is here to document and talk about the things that we are doing to the planet. And this is a pretty clear indication that something is different. You know, if climate change wasn't happening, why would the beavers be here? If climate change isn't happening, why is the permafrost melting? If climate change isn't happening, why are all the glaciers melting? If, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But beavers are, because the climate is warmer, they're invading Alaska's Arctic tundra as it warms, transforming the landscape like wildfire. Satellite images show rivers turning into trains of lush ponds as beavers build their dams. So here's a picture. The terrain in Alaska is changing, but it's changing all over the place because of different things, right? Because of the warmer weather, there are pine beetles. They are killing trees, you know, all over the Pacific Northwest or the West period. Colorado and elsewhere, California, there are, you know, millions and millions of dead trees in the forest because of these pine beetles, because warming weather is creating a situation where these pine beetles don't die back during the winter because it doesn't get cold enough. I can tell you. So this is this is direct evidence that something is changing, that the climate is changing. Therefore, climate change is happening. Regardless of the guys sitting in air-conditioned rooms in front of computers telling you that it's not. But this is interesting. I'm not, you know, I just want to tell you what's happening. I'm not going to really get in depth into this, but they're changing they're changing the surface of Alaska. And because they're there because it's warmer, and because they're there, it's getting warmer. They're speeding up the climate change. They're helping, whatever they're doing is helping the warming climate warm faster. That's how climate change works. It warms a little bit. And because it's warmed a little bit, the things that change about the climate actually encourage more warming at a faster pace. And that's when you get things like an exponential rate of change or an increasing rate of change. It was like hitting the ecosystem over the head with a hammer. The severity and speed of beavers' footprint on the landscape, as seen from space, is more akin to wildfire. This is what it looked like in 2003. This was what it looks like in 2016. You could probably say that part of that is the melting. You could probably say that also because of the melting permafrost and snowcap and glaciers and all that, that's, you know, also adding water to this river system. But the beavers are helping that water slow down, thus creating, you know, warmer ponds and pools where things get warmer. As things get warmer, things get warmer. I don't know. That's happening. This is kind of great. I know that people like to say Netherlands. It's the bad place where people are trying to do something about nitrogen and they're trying to force the farmers off the land. I don't know. I don't know whether I necessarily agree with the methods of all that. But they are also doing something good. Groundbreaking decision. Netherlands to stop subsidies for companies that destroy forests to produce wood pellets, right? You know how these European countries are trying to burn what they call biomass and call it renewable or green, and it is not. So the Netherlands is trying to say, hey, we're not going to, you know, well, we're not going to subsidize you. We're still probably going to buy your stuff. So it's not actually that big of a win. Industrial bioenergy worsens climate change and hastens the collapse of precious forest ecosystems the world over. My wish for 2023, its demise. Well, yeah. They're going to stop subsidies for companies that destroy forests to produce wood pellets. That's like a slap on the wrist. But we'll still buy your stuff, probably. That's a little bit ridiculous. That's a little bit ridiculous. This is not renewable energy on any level. So they should go even farther. So the capitalist exchange is still happening, right? And the capitalist destruction of the environment is still happening because this burning of biomass is still happening, right? But they're just not going to subsidize it, which is hilarious. Yeah, Andre, they're clear cutting forests here for these pellets, for this biomass. They are cutting down forests in the United States to sell to Europe to burn for fuel for the environment. Let's keep going. Oh, real quick, let me stop and check my coffees. Has anybody bought me a coffee today? Not yet. That's a good way to support the channel. buymeacoffee.com/blackbearnews. I'm checking my Rockfins tips. No Rockfin tips as of yet, but I will check back in later. Go Green says, remember a few years ago when I told you summer temps would happen in the wintertime? Everybody laughs. Ha ha ha. I mean, summer temps are already happening in the Arctic. They've been happening. Summer temps in the Arctic and other places have already been happening. Again, this is observable. This is data and evidence, but, you know, ignore it at your own peril, I guess. Remember when I told you a few years ago we would get summer temps in the depths of winter? Denier said I was insane, and even some climate activists complained it was not realistic. And here we go. They're probably not going to let me read this. At least 7 countries saw their warmest January weather on record on New Year's Day. We talked about this already. 2022 turned to 2023, an exceptionally strong wintertime heat dome pounced on much of Europe, producing unprecedented warmth for January. As temperatures soared 18 to 36 degrees Fahrenheit, above normal from France to western Russia, thousands of records were broken between Saturday and Monday, many by large margins. They could have just stopped at Marge. Many by large marge. The extreme warm spell followed a record warm year in many parts of Europe and provided yet another example of how human-caused climate change is increasing the frequency and intensity of such extraordinary weather events. Again, this is not just an anomaly, it is a trend. The trend is what? The trend is warmer every single year. Warmer. Records broken in the summer and the winter in places where it's usually not warm. I don't know what to tell you about that. If it makes you feel better to think that some guy is in the control tower of, you know, the heat making plant, making it hot so they can make the climate change happen. I mean, if that makes you feel better, fine. Go for it. Anyways, hot temperatures. Latvia hits 52 degrees on New Year's Day. Denmark 54, Lithuania 58, Belarus 61, Netherlands 62, Poland 66, Czech Republic 67. Incredibly warm temperatures for a New Year's Day, right? Where it should be super chilly. We talked about homeless earlier. The people left out in this cold weather. And there's about to be more of them, as apparently we're moving into another recession. Alarm as U.S. states pass very concerning anti-homeless laws. But, it's good that we voted out fascism. We just barely avoided fascism. Homelessness charities say wave of new bills unfairly targets people without housing as social services funding is cut. Numerous anti-homeless laws are being passed across the U.S. as funding for social services is widely reduced, raising welfare concerns amongst advocates for the unhoused. In Missouri, a new state law that took effect on January 1st makes it a crime for any person to sleep on state property. For unhoused people, sleeping in public parks or under city highways could mean up to $750 in fines or 15 days in prison for multiple offenses. We live in the wealthiest country and the wealthiest point in history of the human race. And we cannot house people. We cannot give people food. Enough food to eat. And it would be a lot easier to give people all the resources that they need to survive if there were less people. That would be even easier. But even now, we could distribute the things that people need to stay alive way better. Right. Human love, solidarity, and they can send you to a funny farm if you don't cooperate. Texas and New York can send you to the funny farm. Let me see. In August, the Los Angeles City Council voted to ban homeless encampments within 500 feet of schools and daycares, which is pretty much everywhere, right? There are schools and daycares everywhere. So what's not within 500 feet of a school or a daycare? I don't know. The ordinance passed as a federal program that moved homeless people into hotels during the COVID-19 pandemic ended. Enforcement of anti-camping ordinances only displaces people and makes it harder for trained outreach staff to establish trust again, said Tyler Renner, a spokesperson for People Assisting the Homeless, in a statement on the vote. Protesters marched through the downtown Chicago area in November to protest against the city's announcement that donated winterized tents for homeless people had to be removed for street cleaning, reported the Chicago Tribune. The city later confirmed the tents did not have to be taken down but could be moved. I don't know if I told you all this, but I think I did. And more, I've been reporting on the homeless situation in Los Angeles for a long time. That's getting worse, but I think I reported like 4 or 5 years ago it's getting a lot worse, guys. And now, 5 years later, it's a lot worse than it was 4 or 5 years ago. I'm seeing tents and the homeless in places I've never seen them before. And I was coming back from a friend's house, kind of in a better neighborhood, and I drove down the street, and the entire street was lined with campers, homeless people living in campers, and that's what people do. They'll buy like a Winnebago or a camper and park it and live in it. And I've seen that happening in other places in Los Angeles, in less Tony neighborhoods. But this isn't a place that I'd never seen it before. I never thought I would. Then I just yesterday saw more tents, more people camping in their campers and in tents in places I'd never seen before. It seems to be expanding. The homeless population is expanding. When you live in one of the most expensive cities in the world, some commentary on this. Where is it? Oh, this is from Revolutionary Blackout Network. It says, I hate this country so much. And responding to the Missouri law. Let's keep talking about this a little bit. Oxfam says the brief. He's talking about a brief. Oh, here we go. Sorry. This is from Jem Bendel, which is what I was going to talk about. Another post of Jem's. The pandemic policies created 500 new billionaires and further impoverished the poor. That's true. That is true. Even though they gave away a lot of money to people for a while, not everybody got that money. And eventually that money ended and left people, worse off than they were. Somebody's like, no, that's not true. Somebody said, no, that's not true. And then this is Aaron Vandiver. Said 573 people became new billionaires during the pandemic at the rate of 1 every 30 hours. We expect this year that 263 million more people will crash into extreme poverty at a rate of 1 million people every 33 hours. 1 million people every 33 hours will become poor or extremely poor. I don't know, this person is like yelling into the... No, it didn't happen. Lies. I don't know. And remember that the already billionaired increased their wealth by billions and billions more, doubling their billions, tripling their billions. Let's listen to what RFK Jr. has to say.
You think about this. I got expelled from Instagram because of vaccine misinformation. But Instagram and Facebook cannot point to one single erroneous statement that I ever made. Everything we post is vetted It is sourced and cited to government databases or peer-reviewed publications. When they use the term vaccine misinformation, they are using it as a euphemism for any statement that departs from official government policies and pharmaceutical industry profit-taking. It has nothing to do whether it's true or false. It only has to do with what the political implications are. And who is doing this censorship? It's government officials in league with Bill Gates, with Larry Ellison, with Mark Zuckerberg, with Sergey Brin from Google, and with all of these internet titans. They have engineered not only the destruction of our democracy and our civil rights, but they have engineered the biggest shift of wealth in human history. $3.8 trillion from working people to these handful of billionaires, many of them from Silicon Valley. This pandemic has impoverished the world and created 500 new billionaires. And those are the people who are strip mining our economies and making themselves rich. And is it a coincidence that these are the same people who are censoring criticism of the government policies that are bringing them trillions of dollars? People aren't stupid. We can see what's happening. We can ask the question, cui bono? And the answer is the people who are benefiting are the people who are squeezing away our constitutional rights and engineering the destruction of democracy worldwide.
Can't say better than that. And that's true. All of what he said there is true. Hopefully YouTube doesn't get upset at me for playing that. I don't know. There's been a lot of the people. Let's see. A lot of the people who are telling you that there's evil afoot with every plan to address climate change. I don't know. I think some of the fears about this are a little bit hyperbolic. One story is that 15-minute cities, here they come, and that this is just a big plan by the WEF. I don't know. They're talking about, so the idea isn't bad. It's just the way that it's being implemented. And I can go back to talking about the Netherlands and what they're doing with farmers there. Like, the idea isn't wrong. It's possibly the way it's being implemented that's wrong. Anyways, they're talking about 15-minute neighborhoods, and this is in Oxford, England. Roadblocks stopping most motorists from driving through Oxford city centre will divide the city into 6 15-minute neighborhoods, a county council travel chief has said. And he insisted the controversial plan would go ahead whether people liked it or not. Duncan Enright, Oxfordshire County Council's cabinet member for travel and development strategy, explained the authority's traffic filter proposals in an interview in the Sunday Times. He said the filters would turn Oxford into a 15-minute city with local services within a small walking radius. Mr. Enright said it's about making sure you have the community center, which has all those essential needs, the bottle of milk, pharmacy, GP, schools, which you need to have a 15-minute neighborhood. Okay. The aim is to reduce traffic in the city center and make city living more pleasant, but critics say the plans will negatively affect businesses in the city center's economy. Oh, no. Oh, it's threatening. What about jobs, right? I don't know. exactly. Creative experiments. But it's okay to bulldoze poor neighborhoods for giant freeways for 60-minute cities. Yeah. And this is the thing is a little goofy to me. Well, I'll read on another part. So people can drive freely around their own neighborhood and can apply for a permit to drive through the filters, which is a little weird, and into the other neighborhoods for up to 100 days per year. This equates to an average of 2 days per week. I wonder how much these permits will cost. It sounds a little bit like a tax scheme to me, which this is the part I don't like about this. But it's, if you're trying to reduce traffic, it's not very effective on several levels. Well, you can drive to another neighborhood 100 days a year. So, like, if you don't usually go to other neighborhoods and it doesn't happen that much, like, does it matter? Right? If you mostly do all your business in one neighborhood. And I think if you work, in another neighborhood and you live over here, I think you're exempt, right? So I think you have exemptions for stuff like that. Or you can take a bus, or you can take transit. Okay, is that so bad? I don't know. Listen to this. Buses, coaches, taxis, delivery vans, HGVs. What is an HGV? Something vehicle. Somebody remind me what HGV stands for again. I think it has to do with mileage, right? I think HGV has to do with mileage. Hold on. Let me look it up. Heavy goods vehicle. Okay, that's what it is. Sorry. HGV is a heavy goods vehicle. So basically, like, and motorbikes and bikes are exempt. So basically, like, every single thing you could possibly drive, except for your own personal car, can go anywhere, go all over the city. So it's like, really? Is this truly an inconvenience? Like, this is like a barely doing anything about anything, right? If you really want to, like, say, oh, we gotta take the traffic down a little bit. We got to take all this personal car driving down just a little bit. It's not, this is a drop in the bucket if you're talking about emissions, because pretty much everything else can. Also, if you are, a policeman, or you're a hospital worker, or, right, there's all these exemptions. So it's like, this is going to affect kind of very few people. So it's really not. So all these other channels that are like 15-minute cities, oh my God, oh, here it comes. It's like, if you actually read the article, it's really not that big of a deal. And there are several other cities, Paris and other cities, cities in, I think Amsterdam is one of the cities. Other cities in Europe have done things where they're keeping car traffic out of certain parts of the city, and it actually makes that part of the city way nicer to be in, right? People really like this, right? There's whole parts of, like, Paris that are just, like, walkable, that they don't allow cars into anymore, and it reduces the smog and the pollution. Yes, don't you want that? Don't you want less smog and pollution? I mean, the people that are saying this is a big evil plan to control your life also understand that pollution sucks. Don't want to breathe in smoke-filled air molecules all day long, right? They don't want to sit behind a diesel-spewing bus all day long, right? Like, don't you want parts of the world that are not filled with emissions and smoke? Isn't that a good thing? I don't know. The people that are saying, like, here comes the most evil thing possible, and reading this article, It's not really all that evil because they're really not going that hard on the evil. They're not really going hard at all. I mean, you could get a motorcycle and just drive anywhere you want. You could take a taxi and go everywhere you want. You could probably get an exemption if you work somewhere else in the city. So it's like, really? Is it really that bad to have electric cars taking you around? Is it really that hard? Is it really that crazy? Oh, you're impinging on my freedoms. Really? Your freedom to what? To destroy the planet? Your freedom to get in your own personal vehicle and spew some emissions around? I mean, when you're saying they're trying to say it's our fault, well, yeah, if you're the person that doesn't want anybody impinging on your freedom to be the most fartinest fool in the world, it is kind of your fault, dude. Like, it is kind of your fault. I mean, really? Is it that bad? Is public transit that bad? Is electric public transit, is it really that bad? Oh my God. People want greener living spaces without all the car fumes around. I mean, I feel like if we still had leaded gasoline, they'd be going crazy. Oh, they're going to take the lead out of the gasoline and impose on your freedoms. Really? Really? I don't know. Anyways, I find the outrage a little bit, a little silly. So, read the article. Tell me how crazy and scary that sounds. I don't know. It doesn't sound that scary and crazy. There's another thing that everybody's all, or maybe it was the Klaus Schwab thing I was talking about yesterday, where it was like, he's like, well, you're going to have to get into the idea that you're not going to have your own personal vehicle. And okay, I don't like Klaus Schwab, and I'm not really, but really, do we all need personal vehicles? I mean, can we actually just like wrap our minds around maybe living in a world where we don't all need to own a personal vehicle? Like, is that really that crazy? Can we have just a nuanced conversation around whether it is we all need to own a personal vehicle, or 18 personal vehicles, or 3 personal vehicles? Like, really? Do we all, if the government provided, clean, affordable public transportation for people to get around, and you're limited to maybe 1 personal vehicle per household, is it really that crazy? Is it that crazy? Personally, I would like to see the ending of the expansion of freeways. Personally, I'd like to see the end of the expansion of the current freeways from 3 to 5 to 6 to 8 to 10 lanes, right? Like, what if freeways were so seldomly used that they started closing them down? Yay. I would be like, okay. Right, obsolete optics. Do we really need to live in suburbs? I mean, is it that crazy? Or if you live in a suburb, what if your suburb was self-sustaining? What if your suburb was just its own community? What they might call a 15-minute city, right? What if your suburb had everything that you needed in it, and you didn't have to go into the city to commute to the city to go do the things? You could work, live, grow food, have a tool sharing co-op nearby where you can get your tools for things, whatever it might be, community buildings where people could get together and do things together. Like, is it really that crazy? Yeah, I mean, Contemplative Prague says, unfortunately, where I live, I need a car. Well, yeah, sure. Where I live, I need a car. I do need a car. That's what sucks. I need a car. I don't really necessarily want to rely on my car, but I need a car for several reasons. But I try to really minimize my car use. And the last part of this discussion that's a little crazy, again, if there weren't so many people coming into the world to populate the world, right, all the time, then we wouldn't have these great, huge, sprawling cities, smoke-filled, trash-clogged, nasty cities that were expanding and expanding and expanding. What if we didn't procreate to 8 billion people? What if we controlled ourselves on some level? Where we could live, gently with the land and with the biosphere, where we weren't overrunning and over-inhabiting and overbuilding, everywhere we went. What if we weren't just this giant expanding blob of humanity, right? What if we didn't do that and we just chilled out and had less of us and less of our things in the planet, and we could all share these things? Like, is that crazy? Is that a crazy idea? It's just not that crazy. Like, the things that they're trying to get you all worked up about are not really crazy ideas. They're not crazy ideas. And you have so many people that tell you that, oh, well, a falling population, that's a bad thing. What's going to happen? Our economy is going to go down, right? Because the economy is built on endless growth. And endless growth is never endless. It always ends. And it always ends badly. So maybe we don't do it. All right, guys, that does it for me. I'll check on the coffees one more time. No coffees as of the end of the show. And checking on the Rockfin tips. Osama says forced Saudi and UAE farmers off the land that they are stealing water from in California and Arizona. There's an idea. There's an idea. All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate y'all. Oh, hey, what's up, William? How you doing?
Hey, Kev, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I hear you on those cities. I think if people want to live there, that's great. Perhaps the fear a lot of people have around that scenario is what it would entail regarding vaccine mandates to be in a community as they continue to push their RNA platform. I don't. Can we talk about this now, or do we have to do that and last thing another time? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You sound a little muffled, William. Sorry.
Oh. Is that better? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
What I said was, I don't know if we can talk about what fears people have about being in those cities regarding vaccine mandates, or is that a Rockfin thing?
It's more of a Rockfin thing, I think.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I get it.
Just to be safe.
Yeah. Or maybe another time then.
Sure.
All right. I'll let it go.
All good. Thank you, William. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome. Bye.
Before we go, I just want to read a chat from Mitski. What do people who live in the third world amongst the developed world's waste and who mine all the resources that get exported to the developed world for electric cars think? Which data sets and evidence can you refer to that supports your generalized opinions? No one opposed the removal of lead from gasoline on the grounds of personal liberty. You have just fabricated that claim that there was no campaign to keep lead in gas. There actually was. There actually was. It wasn't a public campaign, but there was a concerted, for decades and decades, there was a concerted effort led by the American Petroleum Institute and the forces, capitalist forces who wanted to keep lead in gasoline. They literally had a campaign to discredit scientists and people who spoke out against lead in gasoline. They had this whole coordinated campaign against it. So there were people against it. And that was a long time ago. But had we lived in this day and age, in the same way that we have people saying, no, fossil fuels aren't a problem, right? We have coordinated, paid for, think tank produced campaigns to tell people that climate change isn't happening and it's not a thing and it's just made up, and only the bad and the evil people are making you think that. And that everybody who cares about the climate is all an actor paid for by the Rockefellers or the bad people. They're all the environmental, campaigns and people that care about the environment. They're all delusional fools, right? I'm telling you right now, if we lived in this day right now, if they were trying to take lead out of gasoline, they'd probably, there would be people out there telling you like, no, why would we do that? You're right. It's not a bunch of personal, people, citizens talking about personal liberty. You're right. I'm just saying that there are forces on both sides, right? There's both forces on the side of, maybe there's forces on the side of like trying to lock people down because of climate. Sure. Okay. I'm not necessarily opposed to that idea. Meaning I'm not opposed to the idea that that's true. What I'm saying is there's also forces out there telling you, well, we absolutely cannot have a drop in population because our entire system, entire capitalist corporate controlled system runs on having more people and more consumers and more babies and more things and all, and selling our capitalist system to, all the people of the world, right? We got to raise the standard of living while somehow dealing with climate change, right? I mean, it's going to get weird is all I'm saying. It's going to get weird. But what I'm saying is, you said you were literally hold on. You were literally saying I'm against Klaus Schwab, but I endorse Klaus Schwab's policy. Is it basic, or is it basic to just go, oh, what? I am not going to eat the bugs. The people already eat bugs. Is that? I mean, is it basic to just parrot everything people say on the internet? I think. I'm not pro WEF. I'm just pro. There are actually some policies that. Okay, listen, Mitski. I was listening to James Corbett talking about this, and he said, "Well, kicking people off their land to deal with the nitrogen problem, that's evil and bad." And then he said in the next sentence, he said, "But nitrogen is a problem, and we need to deal with it." I heard that come out of James Corbett's mouth. So. Nitrogen is a problem, and we have to deal with it. Even admitted to by, somebody who is a complete climate skeptic or climate denier, whatever you want to call him. Somebody admitted that this is a problem that we should actually take care of. So you might actually have a problem with the people that are trying to give you answers to the problem. Fine. Or you might have a problem with the way that they're going about it. But the thing that they're trying to do is actually beneficial and desirable. I heard that from a climate skeptic's mouth. So, unless I present data and evidence in support of what you're saying, then that absolutely doesn't mean anything. All right, Mitski. All right, I'm gonna get out of here before I get into a whole conversation with somebody who's just going to give me all the. But you don't have any data and evidence. I do have lots of data and evidence all the time. Just watch the show. Just hang out and watch the show. And I'm not going to sit here and just pull out a bunch of whatever. You're just going to counter everything I say with, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay. All right, Mitski. The thing is that climate change is happening. The thing is that we are destroying the planet. The thing is that we are an expanding blob of destruction, human beings. And we should and could choose to do it, do things in a better way. I don't necessarily want to see like an authoritarian answer to this, and I don't think anybody does. That's what I'm saying. But not every response to this problem is a crazy kooky Klaus Schwab WEF generated. Not every response needs to be couched in that, right? Not every response is the wrong response, right? People are greening cities. People want public transportation. People want clean, whatever, clean energy. I'm not necessarily a fan of the clean energy thing, but whatever. People want cleaner cities and less pollution and walkable spaces and less car, right? Like I'm for not everybody having a freaking personal vehicle or not having 3 or 5, I'm all for that. And just because I'm for that doesn't mean I'm in league with Klaus Schwab and I love the WEF and I totally want to take away people's freedoms. I don't know. Do people have to have the freedoms to destroy the planet? I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. Like, yes, I'm all for freedom. I want people to be free. But are people free to pollute wherever they want? Are people free to just, piss in your yard? Are people free to just do whatever they want? No, they're not. They're not free to just do any shitty old thing that they want to do. So there's a thoughtful approach to this, right? It's not everything is taking away your freedoms. Some things are taking away your freedoms. I'm not necessarily for all those things. I'm not necessarily a fan of just taking away people's freedoms for the wrong reasons or for nefarious purposes. I'm not a fan of that, right? Some laws are just laws. Some laws are unjust laws. It's up to us and up to people and people as a whole, as a collective, to decide what's an unjust law and overturn those laws, and what's a just law and to promote those laws. That's called nuance. That's called thinking it through. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. I'll see you all tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And until next time, peace.